We're back. Do Not Disturb is back.
Yep.
Happy Friday, boys. We made it. It's
Happy
Friday.
Yeah.
Best day of the week? Question mark? What do you guys think? How do you rank your days?
Ooh. I do love Fridays. I think I love Fridays. Like, it goes a little bit deeper for me too. Like, you guys both probably know this, but Tori and I, we keep Shabbat or the Sabbath on Friday nights and like moving into Saturday. So I really look forward to Friday because it's like a lot more than just, I think, like just like the weekends coming, like we got a bunch of fun stuff. It's like, it's for me, it's kind of like there's a coming of like peace and like, just like a break away from the norm that happens for me on Friday nights. And I enjoy that. So yeah,
it's almost like you turn on Do Not Disturb mode.
Almost. Yeah. Almost just like that, actually. Quite literally.
It's thematic. We didn't plan it, but very thematic start to the episode. Dude, I feel the same way. Like we don't necessarily practice like the Sabbath starting Friday night, but in a sense we do, because I turn off everything. Like, so typically we would do like date night, right? We would like, I think pre-baby, we probably went out every Friday night for like 2 years straight, honestly. Like that was like our thing, right? And then we had the baby, and it's like now Friday night looks different, but it still is like, let's turn off everything. Yeah. Let's like just focus on me and you, the family. And then like into Saturday, I'm the same way, dude. Like Saturday, don't text me about work. Don't, you know what I mean? Like I need that day. And so I feel the same way, Caleb. But to your point, like Friday is kind of interesting because we're working a full day on Friday, right? Like, you kind of have to like do this balance of like, it is almost the weekend, but like at the same time, Friday for me is like it's a lighter meeting day. We're not doing as much like jumping around and planning for the week. So it does feel a little bit different. I don't know. I like Friday. I like the feeling of Friday. I feel like it's, I don't know. It's a little special.
Yeah, totally.
Matthew, agree. What's your favorite day of the week?
I'd probably say Thursday, which is weird.
Friday Eve?
Friday Eve, yeah. Because I feel like all of the stuff I've got going on in the start of the week, there's tons of meetings, and we've got other stuff like going on like in our personal lives as well. Like we have our church small group is on a Wednesday night, for example, and that's like right when like it's in the period where like Leo's either just winding down or going to bed, so it's like a real struggle to like just get there some weeks, and it's just a stress. But
wait, so how do you guys do that? Like I'm curious, just from a parenting perspective, has someone watching him while he sleeps at home, or are you taking him with you and he's sleeping there?
Us.
Okay.
So it starts at like 6 and runs till 7:30, and normally he's in bed at 7:30, like asleep. So it's kind of like keep him awake. But there's other kids in the group, so they all like go down to the basement and like all play together, and some adult hopefully is watching them so they don't die. But the thing about kids that I've really come to like be aware of is they say, oh yeah, he's just teething. Teething is just like breathing for a baby.
It's
perpetual. It's just like it's a perpetual. It's just a lifestyle choice, So
I mean, dude, I don't know if you've counted your teeth ever, but there's a lot of those suckers. And not only that, but they come in twice. Like you get your first pair, like your practice pair of teeth, and then like all those go away, and then you got to do the whole thing over again. So these poor kids, man, their whole life is dedicated to growing teeth.
Right. Seriously. We we talk about the big milestones of, with first word, when they walk, when they like say their first sentence, when they sing. Like for me, I think the big milestone in Leo's life is going to be when he stops teething. Like I'm just like pushing for that day, But yeah, it's not cool. It's not easy getting to small groups kind of thing, and like anything in the evening is just like kind of tough with a 1-year-old. But like Thursday arrives, it's my last day of like wall-to-wall meeting work kind of stuff without much breaks. We tend not to have anything on in the evenings on a Thursday. Friday I wake up and I'm just like, let's finish this thing out strong, and Thursday like helps me prepare for that, so like Friday is New Music Friday, so I get, my opportunity to piss off Dakota as much as possible,
Yeah.
which happened
By
this
sending
morning
me
as well.
every album I like, he's gonna be like, dude, too mainstream, not good enough.
That's not true.
Uh,
Hey, I'm
yeah.
putting this on the record. I really like the new Drake project that just dropped this morning. So there
Hey,
you go.
I'll take it as a win, man. I'll take it as a win.
That's on the record.
Well, that's cool. So your favorite day of the week is Thursday.
Yeah.
I'm a Friday guy. Well, I'll say like I love Monday also for different reasons,
Mhm.
but I feel like Friday is in like the theme of do not disturb. Friday is like the it's like the precursor to a proper do not disturb weekend, right? And when I say that, I don't mean like ignore work at all costs or like do things that are detrimental to the success of the business or whatever, but more so like in my opinion, for a healthy and like happy balanced life,
Mm-hmm.
we gotta have a rest. Like we have to
Mhm.
rest at some
Mhm.
point, right? And
Totally.
that's what the Sabbath is for, right? So
Yep.
I don't know, Caleb, how do you feel? And I know today we want to talk about like specifically we want to talk about parenting and entrepreneurship, right? And
Yep.
and also just work life. But before we get into that, I think this is a good topic because Caleb, you practice the Sabbath better than like anyone that I know personally, which is a weird thing to say because it's the antithesis of like the Sabbath is doing something, and I'm saying that you do it really well, but whatever. You know what I mean, right? Like you hold that time sacred. So like, how does that affect your work life? Like, how does that play into like who you are and how you work and the balance of it all?
Yeah, man. So it's a good question, and it honestly, I think the Sabbath has changed my life, my work life, and my personal life, like in the best way possible. I'll start with saying that I think the beautiful thing about Friday really is that you kind of get the best of both worlds, if you will, because like I think as men, as dads, as just people, I think that like work is a crucial part of our life, right? So it's a crucial part of us feeling like we're contributing to society, that we have like a purpose and we're doing something meaningful, right? And so that's kind of the work piece. But then it transitions at night into that like season of rest, right? Which is the total opposite. It's you actually taking a break away from all of the work and the hustle and the bustle, right? And so that's one of the things that I think is beautiful because you kind of get, it's the only day of the week where I think you get both of those things, right? You get the rest, but you also get like the meaningful work, which is really cool. So that's why I love Fridays. But yeah, man, I mean, like you nailed it on the head. Rest is like essential, right? Like we sleep every night, right? We know that like sleep and rest is like we have to have it to survive. But I think taking a break and like using Saturday, using your weekend to just really rest and to recover, right? That's like incorporating the idea of like sleep and rest that you do every day, but into your like rhythm of your normal life, right? And so I don't know, it's special for me. It's been really really amazing for our marriage. I think it's amazing for our family, and like it's a special time to enjoy time with your kids too. So all around, man, it's just like if you just take a second, and it doesn't mean you have to. I know, thank you for the compliment on saying that like I do it well, but like even if you're just starting out with like trying to say, hey, I want to try to take some time to rest, you don't have to like do like a whole like ceremonial thing and like spend all day trying to like prep for it or whatever. Just like literally, it's as simple as like just taking a day would be like, hey, I'm going to treat this day a little bit differently. Let's maybe like put my phone on do not disturb today, right? And like start with small steps. But gradually what I think you'll find, at least that I found, is that the more that I did that, the more in love I fell with resting on that day, and the more I tried to do more of that, right? So yeah,
That's awesome. Yeah, it's inspiring, man. Yeah, I think there's the type of person that like enjoys inbox zero, right? And I think we're all three. Email, I'm not going to say I'm that way with email, but Slack, for example, like I don't have any notifications when I log off of Slack at the end of the day. I might get 1,000 messages in a day. No exaggeration. I probably do. I don't have any at the end of the day, right? But going into the weekend, I feel this like it's so hard to explain if you haven't tried to not look at your Slack or your email or your text for a whole day when you're used to getting that many. Because I feel like on Sunday night when I'm about to go back into work on Monday, there's like anxiety behind what if there's 100 people that need something from me right now, right? And that
Mhm.
pattern is hard to break.
Mhm.
I'm getting better at it, I think, because I'm like, dude, if there's something that urgent that they need me as the owner of the business, then we set the business up wrong. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like
Mhm.
there's got to be like a hierarchy of like, hey, when there's a problem like this is what you do. If this doesn't work, then here's this. You know, there's got to be
Mhm.
SOPs in place. And so I've gotten myself to the place now where I'm like, if it's really that urgent that I have to check it on a Saturday or on a Sunday or during Sabbath or whatever it is at 10 p.m. at night, like it's likely that I should probably not be in that relationship to start with.
Mm.
And I should probably find ways to get away from that.
Mhm.
Unless it's like the world is ending, right? And like
Well, of
something
course, yeah,
actually tragic happened. But
for sure.
usually
Mhm.
it's not that. Usually it's somebody just being like, hey, just wanted to ask you about this thing, right?
Yeah,
That
yeah,
can wait till tomorrow.
for sure.
Like,
Mhm.
Totally.
and that's a hard habit to break. But I love what you said, dude. It's like, it doesn't have to be perfect. First step, turn on do not disturb mode, you know,
Yeah,
and see how it impacts your mental health. Like
totally.
the amount of distraction that you feel when you're actually trying to spend
Mhm.
time with your family, you know?
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep, that's
So you
perfect.
two both have some pretty big like life events coming up. One of
Mm,
us quicker than other, and this is going to be like a real test of that, do not disturb mentality of,
Yeah.
letting things go, letting the
totally.
business like be handled. So it's November 17th today that we're recording this, and not this Sunday, but next is when Dakota and JC are expecting their second little boy, and Caleb's
Woo!
not far behind either. So, well, Caleb's expecting a truck today, so that's pretty cool too.
Hey,
But
let's go.
so, like,
Uh,
when you're in that mental zone on a weekly basis, anyway, how do you think that's going to translate, especially in the twilight period just after the births?
mm,
Yeah. Well, let me say, like, I don't think I did a good job of this last time around.
Mm,
Um,
mm,
so like we had Lincoln, our 1 year old. So we had him in September of 2022. So this is, a year and some change ago, like not that long ago. We had
yeah.
Lincoln, and this was year one of the business, right? And me and Caleb were in a spot where it was a lot more hands on. Like a lot of our like clients needed us specifically to be there on a daily basis. And,
mm,
it was sort of like a period of building the business, really. I mean, like
Mm,
it wasn't quite an option at that point, at least in my mind, to like log off for 3 weeks and just go be a new dad. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
I feel like that's the piece that gets missed with entrepreneurship sometimes. Is it's like
mm,
you might look at entrepreneurs and say, man, must be nice, like they made a business and they're making good money, or maybe they're not, maybe they just pretend they are, you know what I mean? Who knows what they're doing, but I feel like society is like, oh man, entrepreneur, that's amazing, I can't believe I didn't do that, like, and like it's sort of that thought. But I will say, like, this piece of it, like the major life events when you're building a business, it's really hard to balance. And I
Mhm,
think last time I did it really poorly. I took 1 week of paternity leave. And then the next week it was like, no meetings, but still working, laptop in bed type stuff.
mm,
mhm,
I think it worked with our first baby. I think it worked with Lincoln because JC, my wife, did everything, right? Like when you're a new dad, man, it's like, what do you do? You're really, what I was doing was chores around the house. Like JC
yeah.
fed the baby, JC woke up with him during the night. She was in charge of like everything. We were learning it. It was scary. We're like,
mm.
night one, we're like, is he breathing? Like he's just in there. Is he alive right
I
now? Like we
remember.
woke up every dude, it's so scary. You wake up like every 4 seconds and you're like putting your ear by the bed, like, okay, I think he's still breathing. We're good.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
dude.
so there was those moments, but like in reality, like the paternity leave, it was just me, like, I don't know, being there for JC, right?
Yep.
This time around is very different for us. And
Mhm,
who knows what it will really look like. But in the last year, we moved to a new city. We don't know very many people here at all, right?
mhm,
I've met my neighbors, right? But we don't have like the family support. You know, we don't have like grandma and grandpa to call. We don't have, you know, like any, you know, good friends down the street or whatever. So for us, these first few weeks after you know our new son is born is really going to be me taking care of Lincoln, who's a 1-year-old. He's still a baby, man. He's not even a toddler. And JC figuring out how to take care of the new baby and us kind of doing that together. So
Yeah.
my point is this, like, I feel like this time around, I've learned a lot from paternity leave the first time. And my goal this time is to take 2 weeks, like undisturbed time, so that hopefully by the end of that 2 weeks, everything feels pretty good. And really I can support JC in her recovery and in what, you know, being just a superhero. I mean, women are insanely incredible, dude. It's like, how does it like, how, dude, like how does any of this work? I remember last time she's in labor and I'm just like, anything you need ever in life, I will do everything I can to get it. Like, dude, it was intense, you know? So anyways, that's my answer. I don't know, Matthew, dude. I'm a little nervous for it, but we've gotten the business to a point now. Caleb is amazing. And I feel like everything's kind of at a place where things shouldn't break if I step away for a few weeks. And really that's the sign of a good business, right? Is when the builder of the business can step out and it sustains itself. So obviously Caleb's still going to be in the trenches and then his turn is next. But yeah, dude, it's a hard thing. I think anybody who says this is easy is totally lying. Like anybody who says it's easy to balance, you know, building a family and building a business, like, I don't know if they're trying to do the same thing as me. You know, I don't know if they're trying to be as present as I am trying to be, you know,
Right.
it's hard.
That's a really good point, dude. Like, it's how I think you define being a good dad, right? And like being a good business owner, right? Because if you have really low standards for those things, then like, yeah, people might just be like, oh yeah, no, it's no problem, right? It's like totally easy, right? But if you want to be like an incredible father and an incredible like leader in your business, right? Like it's a hard balance, right? It really is a hard balance. So it's interesting. I haven't heard someone put it like that before, right? Like, well, how do you define being a good dad? You know what I mean? So yeah, it's interesting.
What do you think, Caleb? How did your last paternity leave? This was a couple of years ago now for you.
Yeah.
And then now obviously, so our baby comes here at the end of November. You guys are due January-ish, so a couple months later. Like, how are you kind of thinking through the process this time?
Yeah, I mean, like, so not to like make you feel bad, but like,
but you have support.
We have support, right? Yeah. And so like, that's definitely not something that I take for granted, but like there's a very strong reason why we haven't really moved away from the town that we live in. And it's because my parents are close by. Tori's mom is like right up the street. Like a lot of our family is here in the Tampa metro. And so every parent out there that has that support, right? Like, how difficult it is to like get away from that. Right. And so, so I think, I mean, like, I'm really thankful that we will have some support, but there's no question about it that it's going to be more work than the first time overall. Now, the benefit is that we've been through it before, right? So that's amazing. It's not like I'm going into it the first time like I have no clue what I'm going to expect here, right? Like, it's like, okay, cool, I've been through this. I'm having another girl. I know what to expect with, I have a girl already. So it's like, so there's a lot of things that I know, like, okay, I've got the checklist, like I know what's going to happen. But, Hannah, she's going to be almost 3 whenever Miri's born. And so I'm like, she's going to be running around like a tornado. And so like, and I work from home. And so there's going to be a lot of like, I think learning through it still. There's going to be new things we haven't had to deal with. But I think that's just being a parent, right? Like I think 10 years from now, we're still going to be learning new stuff, right? Because our kids are going to be going through different stages and advancing.
Bro, what is the conversation we're going to have in 10 years? It's going to be like,
oh my gosh,
Man, Lincoln would not get off the virtual reality today. Like, like what if he
Do not
do?
disturb episode 6,000, So
Hey, and also I think you leaked the name there in that last statement.
yeah, that was a
So
reveal.
editors, can you go back and like bleep
Ooh,
that
yeah.
out?
Can you bleep that out? I
I
don't know if Tori
timestamped.
wants that. Yeah, sorry. I'm so comfortable chatting with you guys. I don't know if Tori wants
I
you to
know. Yeah,
announce
this is
that.
gonna be
Yeah.
like
Uh-oh.
potentially seen by 2 people. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was it
uh,
Neri? Is that what you agreed on?
Miri, Miri.
Miri.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Thanks, man. Yeah.
And it will be deleted forever. There you go.
deleted.
That's funny.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah, I think, dude, like the support piece is huge, and
Mhm.
and that's so amazing that you guys have that. And also, like, I feel like the age gap that you're gonna have, like 3 and a baby, is a little bit nicer in terms of like, at least Hannah's at the stage where like she's self-sufficient in some ways, right? Like
In
go
some ways,
play, sort of thing.
yeah.
So I feel like that's a good, like, they're all good. It's everything is good. I'm more in life. I'm thinking like everything is good, dude. It's just how you view it.
Totally
Like
how
if
you
you
do
decide it's good, it's good. But I will say, like, it
Mhm.
seems really beneficial, like a 3-year difference. I feel like that would be
Yeah, dude.
manageable.
I mean, like for sure. Like I think that there's challenges with both. Like I think that there's some things that like a 1-year-old has that like make things a little bit easier that like a 3-year-old does that. But then vice versa, there's things a 3-year-old can do that makes it easier than a 1-year-old. And so it's like it's just like you said, dude. It's just how you look at it. But yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it's gonna be exciting. It's gonna be so exciting to
Mhm.
just have pretty soon here, bro. Like between like everyone that's on this like podcast that we're recording now, we're gonna have 5 kids between
Oh
us.
my
Like,
gosh.
what the
Nick
heck?
Cannon
Right?
style, dude.
Man.
Nick,
And
Nick Cannon style.
that first time is like you're on the boat heading towards Normandy Beach, you're like
Oh
the
man.
waves are going, you can hear stuff, you're like, what is happening? And then
yeah.
suddenly boom, and it's like go, go, go. Like this has gotta be better.
Dude, that's so funny. Last night, JC was like, she's very pregnant now. So we were like having a conversation like, man, we made such a big deal out of this last time. Like, I mean, the prep work that went into like pre-labor stuff, like
For sure.
we were researching, we were doing classes, we were, and it's funny because like that was important for us because it was going to be so monumental. But this time around, she's like, this is way better. Like now I don't even like, I'm going to show up, have the baby, and we're going to be great. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like she's not worried about that process. But what's interesting, and Caleb, I'm curious your thought on this too, is it's like the first time around, everything felt so special and unique. And I'm finding that like this time around, I almost have a sense of like guilt of like, I'm not talking to this new baby as much as I talked to Lincoln and when he was in the womb. Like I'm not thinking about like gender reveal parties and baby showers, and
Yeah.
it doesn't seem as like sacred because it's not the first time. And I've had to remind myself that it's like, no, this is every bit as special. It's
Yeah.
just different circumstances. But I think that's a unique feeling. And for men, I don't think it's as serious for us. The baby's not in us growing.
Yeah.
But JC has found herself feeling the same way, I know, which is like I'm spending all of my attention focusing on Lincoln, who's here,
Right.
and like there's these conflicting emotions of like how am I going to love another thing as much as I love Lincoln? And
Right.
is it bad for me to think about the baby? Like that, those sort of things. It's like a weird concept because like you love your child more than is even imaginable. How are you going to have that much love for one more?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you will. It's just
You will.
wild.
Yeah. It's crazy. I think it's just one of those things that's like, I don't know, like for you guys, but for me, leading up to the birth of the first baby, like you're really excited and stuff. But for me, where it really hit home, right, was the first time that I saw her. And like, that's when I was like, oh my gosh, like you're a real person. You're here. Like I can see you with my eyes, and like, I think at least the way I'm picturing it is like, it's going to be a little bit of that again, right? Like baby number 2 comes and as a parent and obviously as like entrepreneurs and stuff, we're busy. Our lives are there's a lot going on. And so it can be hard, I think, like to your point, Dakota, to just hone in on just only thinking about this new one to come. But then like they're going to be here and then you're going to see them and you're going to be like, I've known you were coming, but here you are. You know what I mean? And that's like,
Mhm.
that's how I'm thinking it's going to be. You know, it's going to be that
Well,
like,
let me ask you guys this, because that's a good point, Caleb. But I feel like a lot of men that you ask this question, they're like, it took me a while to like
mm,
fall in love with my baby. You
mm,
know, like I love my baby, but was I in love with him as soon as he came out of the womb, or her?
mm,
Because like it's not that emotional sort of like hormonal connection that your wife has. How did you guys feel when your child entered the world? Like, was it like immediately like I am obsessed with you,
mm.
or was it like harder to connect for you guys for a
Mm.
while?
Matthew, you go. I want to hear your
Okay.
take. Yeah.
Um, when he was born, it was Nicole pushed for 4 hours, so that was kind of intense. And so it was like an exhaustion, but at the end of it, when he was finally born, like my mum's a midwife, or she was when we were in England, so she was in the room and just sort of like helping out, and she was just really helpful at keeping everyone calm. Um, when Leo was born, I remember just falling into my mum's arms, crying, and I was just like, oh, "That's my son."
Mm-hmm.
And that was
So
just like
sweet.
there was that moment of release which came like immediately.
Yeah.
Now Nicole had a really complicated delivery, so she
Mm,
damaged her femoral nerve, which meant that she couldn't actually walk for 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
She couldn't pick up Leo. She couldn't hold him without
mm,
support. She couldn't, change him on a changing table.
mm,
So I was the one who was doing all of that. So I was having a lot more physical contact with him than I think was probably, normal for a dad, I think. Just because I was the
mm.
one that was like, taking him everywhere. I was taking him on walks. Even
Yeah.
from an early age, like you guys know, I love cooking. I was like cooking with him strapped to me just so that Nicole could
Oh,
have like a physical break and like do some like leg strengthening exercise things. So in a weird way, we kind of did have that bonding,
Yeah.
which was really
mm,
unique. And it wasn't hormonal, obviously. Well, there is obviously hormones involved in men where there's that release of serotonin and whatever.
mhm,
Yeah.
Um, but there was the physical bonding, which I don't think is common for most men. And I wish that Nicole could walk, I wish that she didn't, really struggle. I wish her recovery wasn't so traumatic. And
mhm,
um like we're excited to one day have another baby, and we're just praying that it's not as traumatic as it was the first time. But honestly, the opportunity it gave me to just have that time with Leo and to have that
Mm.
bonding one-on-one was really precious. So
yeah,
um I feel like I was obsessed. I know for some dads it definitely isn't that way, and that's okay. It's not like there's
mhm,
one set way to do it, and it doesn't mean that you're a bad dad if you don't feel that straight off the rip.
Yeah.
mhm,
But I think circumstances definitely play into it. So um for you guys, you're so attentive to Tori and JC. I think just being the present partner as well as being a present dad is so important to the build up.
right,
Um, because we hear stories of like our dads, our grandparents, and they're like, "Oh yeah, the baby was born, and then we came home." Like my dad, the first day, like when they got back from the hospital when my older brother was born, they got back, like she had a pretty traumatic birth. He was breech, and
mm,
had the cord wrapped around his neck.
oh,
So it was like a really traumatic birth. They get back from the hospital and dad asks, "What's for dinner?" I'm like,
Oh
"Bro,
no.
what are you doing?" So it's like there's a way
uh,
we
It's
can
like
like
the cardinal sin, dude.
uh,
exactly. And obviously my mum was like throwing a fit and like
Yeah.
probably should just like chucked him out for the night or something. But
Yeah.
like there's things that we can do as partners to be emotionally preparing to have that
Right.
bond as well.
mhm,
But yeah, that was my experience. And
That's a good answer, dude. Yeah, I
yeah.
think the like the do not disturb aspect of that is that you had the time to like bond with your son. And I feel like that's a piece of this is it's like you got to be intentional about that time. Like I know that you were you're saying you're more hands-on due to circumstances, but you're also just that type of guy. Like you were hands-on. You would have been hands-on regardless, probably, in my opinion, and so yeah, that's a really cool answer, Matthew. Appreciate that.
Yeah. There is one other thing I wanted to say, which is I think I've like maybe even on the last episode talked about the movie About Time, which really
I love that movie, dude.
like prepared me for parenthood and like fatherhood. There's one line in it which like really stuck to me, and we actually had a piece of music from About Time playing when Leo was born as well, which is really special. But the line is, no one can ever prepare you for what happens when you have a child. When you see the baby in your arms and you know it's your job now, no one can prepare you for the love and the fear. And I think that just like perfectly summed it up to me. And yeah, it was just a
beautiful dude.
Beautiful. Yeah.
I love that. I love that movie, bro. It's so good.
Yeah.
One of my favorites.
Caleb. What's your answer?
Yeah. I'm interested to hear Dakota's too, because I think also how I say this, like
mine's not similar to Matthew's, so you don't have to feel bad if yours is different, because mine's different for sure.
Well, no, I know that yours is different, but I think in my answer, I want to be careful that I don't say something that like goes totally against how you feel about this too.
No, dude, no, that's the point. I think that's the beauty of this conversation, right? Is that we all, as similar as we might be, we're all so unique in the way we view things like this. And so there's I think
there's no one right way to do it.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. So I think, my answer I would say is closer to Matthew's for sure. Like for me, the moment I saw Hannah for the first time, I was like unconditional love. Like you know what I mean? It was like boom right away. And like, I didn't go through that phase that I know, Dakota, you're talking about, where the dad is kind of like almost in a way, like maybe kind of like some dads will go as far to be like I was annoyed by this baby. Like I didn't want to be around the baby for the first few weeks. Like I honestly was like turned off by the whole thing, and they had to kind of gradually get into it. Right. And I think for me, when I hear that, like what I go back to is like, okay, as a human being, like, what do you want? Like, what is your goal in life? Like, what are you after? What is it that you truly desire? Right. And I think that for a lot of guys, when they have a baby, their first thing is like, whoa, this is changing my life. And what I mean by that is like, not just necessarily in a good way, right? Like it's changing my routine. I'm not able to do some of the things that I used to be able to do. I'm now required to do X, Y, Z. And I think for a lot of guys, it's because the focus isn't necessarily on like my goal right now is like being a dad, being a father, being a really good husband to my wife. The goal is like, there's still other things that they want over here. And I think that when they're focused on those things, right, the enemy in the way ends up becoming the baby, because it's like, well, I want this life. Like, this is what I'm used to doing, and this is what I really want. But now I can't do that. And I think it's because the baby is here now. Right. And so I think like that's what it boils down to is like, what do you really want? Because if you want to be like an incredible husband, if you want to be an incredible dad, then like you're going to like go through the tough parts of being a father and like having to do the things of having a newborn, but you're going to love it because that's what you ultimately want. You know what I mean? And so that's my viewpoint on it. And so I don't know.
No, completely agree with that. Completely. But that's not the question though, right? Because what you're describing, in my opinion, is love. Like and what I said from the beginning is like, obviously you love your baby unconditionally. If you don't, there's something wrong with you, like in my opinion, right? Because love is a choice, I think, first and foremost, right? Anyone that's been in a marriage long enough will tell you have to choose love. There's going to be shiny objects that pop up at any point in any relationship of any kind. In order for you to prove your love to something, you have to choose it. Not to say that there's not being in love or whatever, but my point is that I think that men, when the baby is born, like that first moment, I was the same way, Matthew. I sobbed. But it was a release for me too, because it was like 4 hours of unmedicated pushing. And if you guys have ever seen that before, it's exhausting and primal in a way that even just watching it, you're like, I might die. right? And so and she was going through it. So when the baby was born, I'm like, we're just sobbing and looking at him, and it's this moment of like just pure bliss. But I think that was more the release. I think for the weeks after that, it's easy for the dad to not quite have that same like emotional connection with the baby, because he's not making eye contact with you. He's not looking for you. He's not using your body for what he needs, right? Like it's different. Now, so I guess that was my question, because like now I have Lincoln's 1 year old. I'm like, dude, nothing could bother me that he does. Like nothing. You know what I mean? Like, when you're like in
Just
love
wait.
with something,
Just wait.
this is gonna sound for sure. No, dude, no, I reject that notion. I reject the just wait notion, because every season is good if you make it good. However, I will say that the like when he annoys me, right? Like, which he can do. He'll be like, I'm like, dude, why are you crying right now? You have everything you need, right? Like even in those moments, it's this level of like, he is me, like there's this realization that like, I have way more patience with him than I have with like the dog, right?
Course,
if the dog is annoying me, like very short fuse. If my son is annoying me, longest fuse in the world. And I feel like that is kind of what I mean, is it's like this sort of like intangible, like you can't even measure it, right? A version of love. So far as like, like this is a weird thing. Okay. I'm going to say a weird thing now. So don't judge me on this, but
make it a note of the times, just in case I need to edit.
like when you really love someone, you like, even the things that might turn you off from like normal things that you see, like the smell of like his scalp that's not clean, right, after a day or whatever, that doesn't bother me, because he's my son and I love him. If a random baby, even my like niece or nephew, and I'm smelling like they need a bath, I'm like, ew, you know what I mean? Like that's the difference, right? And so I'm trying to like quantify it. So I'm wondering, was that the day one feeling you had? Because some men will say yes, it was, and others I think will say it took me a little bit, right? Because like I'm just meeting this baby for the first time. So I guess that was my question. But to your point, Caleb, it's like it's a choice still, obviously, right? And a good dad makes that choice at 10 times out of 10.
Yeah, exactly, dude. Yeah. I think, for me, it still was like, I think I just, and maybe it's again, like I have a girl and then I've got another girl on the way. And like, I don't know. I mean, like I've tried to picture what it would feel like having a son right away. And like, would I have felt as emotionally attached right away is a good question. I haven't been through it, so I can't say, but there's something, I don't know, about like a daughter that's like, I don't know. It's just like I have this like right away this feeling like that's my little girl. Like I've got to protect her with like everything that I have. And I think it's cool. And obviously like having a son, there's so many special things, really unique and special things that I think just having a son would bring. But for me too, I think there's this element from dad to son that's kind of like you got to make it in this world, man. Like it's my job to kind of make you a man. And I don't have that, like, I don't feel like it's as big of a responsibility for me to teach Hannah how to grow into a woman, right? Like, I think she looks to, I mean, I think there's pieces that I contribute to that 100%, but Tori's her role model for that. I'm not, right? And I think that like, there's a piece of that right away that's just, it's a little bit of a different dynamic. So I don't know, that maybe that's leads into me feeling that emotional attachment that you're talking about, Dakota. So
yeah, it's special, dude. It's really interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, interesting stuff. Just to also go back for 2 seconds to like the like when I said just wait. So I guess a quick note there is like 100%, like it's never going to be a thing where you're just like, oh my gosh, now I don't love my child anymore. I'm just like, you know what I mean? Like I'm losing it or whatever. But like, dude, I'm telling you, man, like I will tell you that one of the biggest challenges for me with like being a dad so far has been when she got to the toddler stage and had enough mental capacity to choose to do the other thing when you say to do this thing. That the first time that started happening was where like I started to really have difficulty, because it's one thing when they're just doing it and you tell them to do this thing, but they don't really get it. They're just kind of like
Yeah.
doing the thing, and you're like, well, all right, well, they'll just go over here.
Right. He
When they
doesn't,
look at you
doesn't
and they
understand. Yeah.
they don't understand, right? But when they look at you and they get it, and then you're like, hey, do this, and they just look at you and they're like, no, right?
Nah.
Like you're like, all right, like this is different now. You know what I mean?
For sure, dude. So how do you handle it? I mean, like what has been your learning experience like in terms of, because it's not logical, right? That's the hard part, is it's children are driven by emotion, like until they're in their 20s. I mean, like, honestly, think about the high school decisions you made. Like it goes up until your 20s.
Totally, dude. Yeah.
Like, how do you handle that? Being like a logical grown man, it's like,
yeah,
it's
and
difficult.
the funny thing is, I bet you if anybody right now is listening that has like grown children, right, they're probably looking at me right now like, oh buddy, just wait. You know what I mean? Because like,
wait. Yeah.
everyone, like, that's what they say, right? Is like girls are like pretty easy until they become teenagers, and then girls become difficult or whatever. But dude, it's a learning experience for me. Like, I'm not gonna say I have an answer for this, because it's been difficult, right? Like I've had moments where I felt like I probably didn't handle my response the best way, right? And like I've had to look back and be like, all right, well, next time that happens, maybe I'll try to do it this way instead, So I'm actively learning, but it's hard, and it's hard for like, to like just have someone deliberately disobey you, and then like, okay, well, what do you do? You know what I mean? Like,
for sure.
It's
for
tough.
sure.
It's really tough.
Going back to that notion of just wait, though, I was just giving you crap because I posted a reel yesterday that was like, hey man, don't let people like gatekeep your next situation in life, right? And I'm just giving you crap because I know you come from a good place, saying like, dude, it gets harder. But I feel like that is true for everything in life, right? Totally. And like there's a group of people probably in the world that focus on those negative things. And of course, you're not one of them. You're not focused on, man, it's so hard right now to raise my daughter, right? And we're not that type of person. Like, it's a pure joy. Like, I will take, if I had a million times to choose over what I'm choosing to do raising my son, I'm going to pick it 1 million times, right? Do I miss taking spontaneous trips? Do I miss going to dinner? Do I miss those things? Sure. But like, those are this important to me.
Totally,
and my son is up here, right? And so for me, like, this idea of like someone who's been through an experience that you're about to go into, this happens all the time. It's not just parenting. It's not just, it could be anything. Business is a really good example, right? Somebody who thinks they've been in your shoes. Remember when we were starting the agency, Caleb? It's like everyone that we had talked to that had run an agency in the past. Oh yeah, man, I've been there. It's way too hard. You're going to hate it, dude. It's the worst. Clients suck, whatever. And it's like, dude, that was true for you because that's what you chose to believe about the situation.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm not saying don't listen to people when they're giving you a warning or telling you like, hey, maybe this could be helpful in your next step. But the idea of saying like, because it sucked for me, it's also going to suck for you, is actually you trying to put your negative bias onto a person when they haven't, like, let them figure out that situation for themselves, because it's going to be different for them than it was for you. It might be as hard, might be harder, might be less hard, but the way that they choose to respond to it is what matters, right? And so for me, I'm like, and I'm not saying this about what you just said, dude, at all. I'm just saying like that's been something true for me this week, and that's why I'm picking up on it, is because like I'm just thinking through like all the times somebody's been like, dude, you're having 2 kids under 2. That's gonna be really hard. And I'm like, yeah. Well, no crap, it's gonna be hard. If it was easy, like everybody would do it. You know what I mean? Like I'm just past that in life, though. It's like, do the hard thing. It's the harder it is, the more rewarding it probably is, right? Imagine when my boys are 13 and 14 and they get to like try out for, the golf team together. I don't know, right? Like they get to have camaraderie through their life because we're doing it this way. I choose to look at those things instead of the fact that it's going to be freaking hard to raise 2 toddlers at the same time. You know what I mean? Like, of course it will, but like, isn't that what life's about? Like just doing it.
Yeah, it's good, man. You dropped a lot of good nuggets there, man. It's like
for sure.
Yeah, I loved what you said about like the doing that is like pushing someone's negative bias on you, right? It's like if I'm sitting here telling you like, dude, you're gonna hate having a 3-year-old, right? Like, you know, that would suck. Like I would never say that, right? But like,
And I'm like, oh,
but
what
there's
did
a
I
lot of
do?
people who do
Yeah.
that. Dude.
Does this
Yeah.
thing come with a
Oh, for
receipt?
sure.
You know?
Dude, right? Is there a return policy? No, but you're right, Caleb. And I would say like not only is it a lot of people that do that, it stretches into just like people feel the need to push their opinion on you about anything based on their firsthand experience of the thing, not yours.
Yep.
Have you ever traveled to a country that, you know, when you were prepping to travel to that country, everybody was like, wait, you're going there? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And then you
watch
go and it's
out,
amazing.
you know?
Yeah. Like it's that same thing. It's like, dude, you don't know how I like things, you know, or a restaurant, you know, I never listen to anybody that tells me a restaurant's good or bad because I have way different taste. I like my taste. I'm going to choose what I believe about that restaurant, unless they tell me it was like, there was crickets in the food or something. I don't know, but
Hey, sometimes that's good.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Ethiopians are really nice food.
Yeah, dude.
No
comment.
Crickets.
This is a really good chat, guys. I love this. This is good.
Yeah. We can wrap it up, but this has been a fun one. I think, you know, at the end of the day, like it's a joy of my life to be building a business and building a family. I know you feel the same way, Caleb. You feel the same way, Matthew. It's like, do not disturb. This podcast is all about these real discussions of like, what, you know, can we actually get real for a second? Talk about the fact that it is hard, you know, and have this conversation. And so I think anytime we get to sit down like this and get real for a minute, I'm loving it.
Me too, man.
Absolutely.
It's the best. Cool.
Sick.
Right,
well, catch us on the next one. We'll see everybody in 2 weeks, right, Matthew?
Well, we'll see.
Depends on if your baby's born.
Next
I'll be
episode,
logging in with
Dakota is just
Lincoln
going to
on
be
my lap.
changing a diaper in the background and like doing all kinds of stuff. Like next episode is just going to be on diaper technique. So we're going to get a live demo.
How to warm a bottle.
Let's go. I love it. All right, I gotta go to the next client call actually. So sweet.
Let's go. Friday vibes. Peace, boys.
All right. See you.